So we're going to cook.
The best rice pudding ever.
And it's an old-fashioned recipe, but it's comfort food, and it's been really popular.
Yeah, I grew up eating it. Mom got the recipe before I was born at the Lamb's Cafe downtown.
Yeah, when I worked downtown.
This 100-year-old restaurant that we loved in Salt Lake.
But when I made it in the pressure cooker, I used Arborio rice, which is this rice you use to make risotto.
If you're like me and never heard of it before, this is kind of the packaging you look for. The grains are a little bit different shape than like your normal like short grain or long grain white rice, but it's creamy.
It's a starchy rice, so it releases a lot of creamy liquid as it cooks.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's perfect for a rice pudding. You can make a creamy rice pudding without using a lot of heavy cream.
Yes. In a pinch, you can use a different rice, but it will not be the same creamy
right.
texture.
If you want to use long grain rice, that's great. You probably just want to add some half and half or some cream to finish it up.
By the way, I'm Jen.
And I'm Barbara.
And we run the site Pressure Cooking Today. Our recipes work in any brand of electric pressure cooker.
So the thing that makes it so quick to cook in the pressure cooker is we pre-cook the rice. White rice only takes 3 minutes to cook. Yep. Has a 3-minute cook time.
With a 10-minute release.
Yeah, because you want the rice to steam at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get the rice cooking.
Add the water.
So we have
1.5 cups of water.
And a 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
Why do we add the salt, Mom?
It just helps to flavor the rice. This is your only chance to flavor it. So, and a cup of the Arborio rice. So we just go ahead and stir that in a little bit.
I like to make sure all the rice is under the liquid before we lock the lid in place. As always, check your ring, make sure everything's in place. Put it on, lock it in place, and again, it's a 3-minute cook time with a 10-minute natural release. If you're cooking at altitude, like we're at 5,000 feet, and 3 minutes is sufficient, but if you're cooking at like 6, 7, 8,000, you might need to add an extra minute.
Okay, so our rice is steamed for 10 minutes.
Yep.
We're going to go ahead, pressure is released. Take the lid off, and we'll just fluff our rice a little bit. See, it's nice and tender and beautiful. So the next step is just to add the milk and the sugar.
So we have our milk. So the milk it calls for 2 cups divided, and so I like to just do it separately just so I don't forget. So we've got our 1.5 cups of milk here. Not splashy.
Go ahead and add in the sugar.
Do you like to dump it or
I just dump it.
You really just dump it? All right.
There you go. All right. So that helps to cool down the rice so that when you add the eggs, they don't immediately start to cook. So that's why I created the recipe so that it separates the rice. You want to hold that?
Yes, I do.
And so now we're going to create the pudding part of it. So it's the eggs that thicken this. So just whisk the eggs a little bit.
I didn't know until I was way older than I should have been that you can actually scramble your eggs by adding them to too hot of liquid. Like, that blew my mind.
And then we have a 1/2 teaspoon vanilla that we'll just go ahead and whisk that in.
And then why do we use the strainer, Mom?
Okay, so
I'm going to steal that for the spoon.
The strainer is optional, but I like to use it because any of the egg white that didn't get incorporated well with the milk can turn to scrambled eggs in your pudding. So it's just a little bit disconcerting if you get a bit of scrambled egg in there. But an easy way to avoid that is just to strain it through. So go ahead and pour that in, and then it'll go down into your pudding. But you can see that there's a little bit of egg white in there that didn't get quite incorporated into the milk, so that's okay. Just
make a mess. Oh, we're gonna have to switch hands.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, so now all there is to it is to bring this to a boil.
Yep.
Okay, so you just want to stir it constantly until it comes to a boil, and then you're going to turn off the pressure cooker and remove the housing. There we go. And then you're just going to want to stir in your raisins. Now, we love raisins at my house, but if your family doesn't, feel free to omit them. I know people have strong feelings about raisins.
I love them. They're delicious.
So This pudding is going to thicken up as it cools.
As
So
you
you don't
can
want to
see.
serve it right away. It's
Yeah,
still a
it's
little
still
bit runny
fluffy.
and not as pudding-like as you want. Sometimes my husband and I, we like to eat it right away quick.
You
So
don't wait.
if you put it in individual serving dishes, it'll cool off a lot quicker.
Yeah, about 20 minutes is
So-
like the sweet spot for the consistency, but if you like it a little bit runny, you can eat it hot. I prefer it hot. You can chill it. Either way is a great way to serve it. But if you have it hot and you put a little whipped cream on it and the whipped cream starts to melt into the rice, it's so good.
It's delicious. It will thicken up as it cools in the refrigerator. So if you like it creamier, just add a little more milk to it or a
Yeah.
little cream, little
When you
half
reheat
and
it,
half.
I almost always add more liquid just
Yeah.
because that rice just keeps sucking it up to get, and it's
Right,
delicious.
and you can eat it hot or cold. I like to reheat individual portions
Yeah.
instead of reheating the whole thing.
Definitely. So
We'll go ahead and let it chill, let it cool down, and then we'll plate it up for you. So it's been 20 minutes and it's thickened up nicely. We're just gonna put in these pretty fun dishes, and we're gonna top it with a little cream. Usually at home I'll
use fresh.
use fresh, but it's kind of fun to do the cans too.
My kids insist that I put some in their mouths whenever we use cans.
And then it's also fun to just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top.
You can use nutmeg or also.
Well, that's all there is to it. It's good old-fashioned comfort food, a perfect dessert
It's creamy and delicious. You're gonna love it.
any time of year.